folks, we are piling out a new segment for the Amcast here. We are calling this or That. Spite and I will be taking hotly contested topics in motorcycling and trying to determine what is the right path for this pilot series. We are talking naked bikes versus adventure bikes as daily riders, right?
Yes.
All right. You have prepared 10 points for the adventure bikes. I have prepared 10 points for naked motorcycles, and I think I'm going to win.
We'll see. I've got my stuff is all based on experience. I've been living this life for the better part of 3 months now.
Lead us off. What do you think?
Okay, well, the first and most obvious reason why you would want an adventure bike as your daily rider is they are crazy comfortable motorcycles. They're about the most comfortable motorcycle that you can get for commuting on, aside from a cruiser that doesn't have all the emotional baggage of owning a cruiser. You don't have all the like dad love me now stuff. It's just you get to ride around, be in the lap of luxury, even if you're getting something cheapo like the KLR. The KLR is pretty damn comfortable.
Okay. So it's the most comfortable bike, huh?
Yeah, it's the most supremely comfortable ride you're going to get out there.
That's a fair point, I guess.
Certainly more comfortable than a naked bike.
I don't know if it's more comfortable than any naked bike. I would wager that the weight and the overall stature of adventure bikes makes them kind of unwieldy in a lot of ways.
How? We're just on the highway. How is it unwieldy on the highway?
Not on the highway. I think like if you're doing like proper commuting stuff and you're doing like slow speed parking lot stuff or you're trying to like move it around places, the damn thing weighs like 550 pounds.
I mean, you could just get a smaller adventure bike. Get yourself a
You can have a little big bike or a big bike.
Yeah, of course. No. Just get the little big one and then you're all good.
Ridiculous. I disagree, obviously. So my first point for naked bikes as a daily rider, and I think it's the most important point, they actually look cool. Adventure bikes are dorky as hell, and the people who ride them are even nerdier.
MT10.
Aesthetics matter to a lot of motorcyclists.
MT10. The entire MT line of motorcycles is ugly as sin.
Ducati Street Fighter V2 and V4. The naked bike is a motorcyclist motorcycle, right? Like crotch rockets and ADV bikes, the Ewan McGregor, all this stuff. Like those are mainstream options. The naked bike, you gotta know what you gotta know about naked bikes. You know what I mean? They look cool. We have to admit, naked bikes look cooler than ADV bikes.
All right, number 2, they are specifically designed for usable torque right off the line because they're meant to be used off-road, so you can just poodle along. They have the low center of gravity. They're designed for you to refuting your earlier point about parking lot stuff. They're really easy to manage because they're designed to be ridden slow.
I disagree with them having a low center of gravity. Most adventure bikes that I've ridden have a very high center of gravity because it feels like everything's up top, up here with the gas tank and everything, and it feels really odd, you know?
I feel like I get more of that out of a dual sport than out of an ADV bike. ADV bikes have such low weight.
No, dual sports are so lightweight that you can just kind of chuck them over side to side, and it's super easy to ride. ADV bikes feel really top-heavy to me. My second point is that you can get a huge variety of naked bikes, displacement, age, purpose, etc., and you can stick with them as you go through the progression ladder. You can start an MT-03, go to a street triple, go to a 2.0. Adventure bikes basically start, unless you're talking the little Duke 390 Adventure, which that doesn't really count, does it?
Duke 390 Adventure, we got the Versys X300, we've got...
Are those real adventure bikes?
Yeah. You can do anything on those bikes that you can do on a bigger adventure bike.
But there's like 2 of those. For naked bikes, I can think of like 10 different little bikes, probably 20 different middleweight bikes. If you go back in the catalog too, there's like a litany of naked bikes.
But how many of those are actually, like, of the modern crop, how many of those are actually worth owning? The Z400, certainly not the MT-03. That one's kind of garbagey. The CB...
We don't think that it's worth owning that one, but for a beginner rider, it's cheap, accessible, easy to ride, super low seat height. That's something about ADV bikes I'll talk about later.
But they're all sort of samey. You're getting in the small displacement, they're all the f***ing same.
And the adventure bikes aren't the same. Half of them have a friggin' parallel twin in them.
You've got, that's as you move up the ladder, right? Uh-huh. The small displacements, you got singles, you got parallel twins, you've got options. And I will give you that a lot of them look similar.
Yeah.
But there are, as you get up, you've got, your Duke 890R, which is, all hard-nosed, and you've got your soft-nosed V-Stroms and so forth. You do have options in what you want to get.
I think there's more of a variety in naked bikes, but we'll agree to disagree. What's your point number 3?
My point number 3 is, okay, good luck with this one. Features, baby!
Okay.
ADV bikes have all the features that you want for your daily ride. Even your little Duke 390 has a bunch of awesome features. Cruise control, heated grips, heated seats on some of these bikes. They've got all the rider modes. Some of them have like crazy adjustable electronic suspension. You've got so many feature sets on these motorcycles. And I mean, they're completely competitive, if not more competitive, with the same, you take your flagship naked bike like the MT10. Sure, you've got some really cool suspension, but your flagship ADV bike has even more cool suspension. And it's got the adjustable ride height on the Pan America.
I think these
Ducati's getting them now.
I think these bikes are also, because they're so large, they also are very difficult to swing a leg over and to maneuver and all that sort of thing. So I think the ride height is a technological solution to an inherent disadvantage these bikes have.
I don't see it that way.
That's what this whole series is about. We say a point, the other guy goes, nah, that's not right. You got it all wrong. All right, my next point number 3, is that naked bikes can easily be commuter motorcycles with the addition of a tank bag, a tail bag, or both. You don't need huge hard bag luggage for just commuting around town for a daily ride. Any naked bike, you can put a tank bag on, a tail bag. You can carry 90% of what you need to. A backpack too if you really need to. Anything you need to get done, you can get done on the naked bike.
But if you have all, because this is my actual next point, is the panniers and so forth, you can put so much more. You can literally replace your car with an adventure bike if you want.
How much do you really need to be hauling around and bringing with you when you're riding your motorcycle?
Try go grocery shopping on a naked bike.
That's why I got a car.
But you could, let's say you want to replace you just want one vehicle to rule them all. Then you have the perfect option in the adventure bike.
I think you could, if you really wanted to do that, I think you could still put soft bags on a naked bike if you really needed to. And you could have them be removable, which is cool.
They're removable on ADV bikes too.
Then you get the big like little like rails and frame things on the side.
Crash protection.
They're removable, but they still, again, distract away from the aesthetic of the bike.
I think that's part of the aesthetic of the adventure bike, though, is all of the racks
utilitarianness
and stuff.
of the racks.
It's literally meant to be like getting one of those off-road Ford Raptors with the lights on the roof and stuff.
I have a point about that later on in mine as well.
But I would rather, if I was going to be, and I do this on my adventure bike, I will run errands just solely on the KLR because I've got oodles of space on there. I do not run errands on a naked bike because then I have to put the bags on, and putting bags on a naked bike is actually a pain in the ass.
What's your point number 4?
Well, my point number 4 was that you could cram more into an adventure bike. So just purely on volume, the adventure bike wins.
Okay, you can definitely haul more crap with you with an adventure bike. But I feel like if you want to be a good steward of the world, you don't need to own so much crap you need to be hauling around with you all the time. Be minimalistic. Own a naked bike. You don't need to have all this junk with you all the time, you know?
But I don't have to wear a backpack. And you know how much wearing a backpack sucks on a bike.
I don't like wearing a backpack on a bike, that's for sure. But
I just stuff it all into my saddlebags and it's problem solved.
All right, my point number 4, and this one I think you will have a hard time disagreeing with. Naked bikes pull wheelies like nobody's business, and the ergonomics support doing wheelies as well. Adventure bikes, with their gigantic weight and gigantic sizes, tend to not be as fun when it comes to doing the sweet dank nooners that we all love doing.
Ergonomically, I will give you that they are not designed to wheelie, but
when they come up too, you're like, this is a lot coming up, you know? Like, I've done wheelies on adventure bikes, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
But it's like doing a fucking wheelie in a pickup truck. It's like you're just like, yeah. I do it the Pan Am when you turn off the lift control. It feels awesome to float the front end on that thing.
Yeah.
Same thing on the 1290. They'll just float the wheel all the way through the first couple of gears, and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a point later on in mine as well. It comes down to that a little bit. I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that, you know, when you're doing crazy stuff with your bikes, I mean, we talk about it a lot where, like, they get some Poltares-looking guy for the promos, and he's doing fat nooners on an Africa Twin or whatever, and, like, you know, doing trials maneuvers on these bikes. Comes down to the rider, really. You know, like, if you feel comfortable doing big wheelies on a big bike, more power to you. Personally, I don't like it. It feels crazy.
I mean, for me, coming down to comfort on a motorcycle, the bigger you are, the bigger your bike is, the more comfortable you're going to feel doing silly shit. That's why I was feeling more comfortable riding around off-road on the KLR doing silly shit.
Do you feel like it's directly correlated to size of rider then?
I think that, yes, the size of the motorcycle matching the size of the rider is important.
Yeah.
Because I do feel more comfortable off-road on an ADV bike than I do on a dual sport. Because it's just a bigger motorcycle.
Gotta ride harder terrain.
I'll putter along on the KLR.
Next point.
So my next point is a counterpoint to one that you're probably going to bring up at some point, and that is expense. Everybody looks at ADV bikes and they're like, oh, they're so expensive.
Yep, I'm going to talk about that.
They don't have to be. You don't have to go out and buy yourself the most expensive ADV bike, just like you don't have to run out and buy yourself the most expensive naked bike. Mm-hmm. It's $20,000 for a Pan America S. It's also $20,000 for a Tuono V4 factory. So in that sense, they're pretty equivalent. If you look at something like the Tenere 700, the 890R, those come in roughly around the same price as the middleweight naked bikes, and those are the middleweight adventure bike segments. They've got the same kind of features that you see on those motorcycles. They come in at appropriate prices. And then you've got awesome motorcycles like the KLR 650, which is dirt cheap. And you can get into the little baby adventure bikes for not a lot of money. The Duke 390 Adventure is $7,000, and the Versys X300 is like $5,000, $5,500. It's crazy cheap.
The only counterpoint I have to that is a lot of the bikes you mentioned are either upcharged on the secondary market and are not available at dealerships. That was going to be my point. I can probably do it right now. Is that naked bikes are more readily available, more cheap, and easier and cheaper to mod as well, since it's not like their entire audience is 40-year-old dads cosplaying as Ewan McGregor. You know, you actually have like normal people modifying and owning their bikes, right? You go on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, you set a top dollar figure of $3,000, you will probably find 12 good, solid naked bikes, you know, varying in displacement and ability to do things and variety and stuff. Whereas I feel like adventure bikes, since so many people are trying to get into them right now, it's really kind of a hard sell to get one for a cheap price.
Just because they're so popular. Everybody knows how good they are, man.
No, it's because everyone's running out and trying to buy a personality. That's why. All right, who's up next? I think you got a point next,
I think
right?
I'm up next with, all right, they are designed to be durable. You can beat the crap out of an adventure bike. You can absolutely...
What happened to the BMW you rode off-road in Utah?
That BMW still runs.
Yeah, it's throwing a bunch of error codes.
But if you try to do what I did to the BMW on a naked bike, it would have been a yard sale. It would have come apart at the seams. The BMW, for all of its other faults, it's a freaking tank.
I think about it this way. My Desert Sled, is that a naked bike, an adventure bike? What do you qualify my Desert Sled as? It's a Scrambler.
Scrambler, so it's like a weird amalgamation of both.
It's not like, I mean, how many times have I crashed or dropped that thing, right?
But have you crashed it in the like spectacular fashion that I crashed the BMW?
No, but I think it's had basically like a repetitive stress injury with the amount of times I have crashed it, you know, and dropped it and stuff. I think that given that adventure bikes are designed to be run off-road, they are obviously more highly fortified than naked bikes, right? But I think a naked bike with a set of sliders is, for its intended use case, going to be just fine too, you know?
Yeah, but you're going to need to replace a bunch of stuff. You can't look at a naked bike that's gone for a slide and been like, that's adventure bike patina. If you drop an ADV bike and it's got some scuffs on it, that's just patina. I don't care that my plastics are chipped on the KLR. It's just, that's what they're supposed to look like.
What's your next point?
My next point is, let's see here. Here we go. This one. Could be a counterpoint, could be a positive point. In my case, very positive. The fact that they are not as beautiful as naked bikes means that they are less likely to be stolen.
I knew you'd bring this
as
up.
naked bikes. I have had two motorcycles attempted theft.
That's fair.
In the city, and a lot of people park in cities. And a lot of people in cities want what's not theirs, including your motorcycle. And your adventure bike is too ugly to steal.
You know what? I will give you that one. Yeah, the adventure bike is much less likely to be stolen.
Yes.
Much less likely. I'll give it to you. My next point is that you can do big miles and distance on a naked bike. It is not as fun or as easy as an ADV, but you won't regret doing big miles like on a Super Sport or something like that. They are still perfectly comfortable with their ergonomics. I am tired of hearing people in the comments and in DMs and stuff being like, I can't ride a 210 for 200 miles or whatever it is. You totally can. It's a different experience, right? You're not going to be coddled like you would on a Goldwing, right? It's a different experience. You're going to feel the wind a little bit more, but I think personally that's a positive. You get more excitement, more enjoyment. You get a motorcycle that actually can perform, you know, as opposed to one that is kind of like, I guess it can kind of make it through these twisties and accelerate and stuff. You get a bike that is designed to do it.
But if you're road tripping, you're trying to do big distance, and you want to just be able to sit back, put on an audiobook, and motor on down the road.
You can do it on a naked bike. What's your next point?
My next point is, here we go. We have a bunch of choices for great exhaust notes throughout the whole spectrum of ADV bikes. If you like thumpers, we've got them. We've got V4s, we've got V-twins, we've got parallel twins that sound like V-twins for people who are, homunculi and like the sound of normal P-twins. We've got them. Mm-hmm. There's even triple cylinders. Mm-hmm. So any exhaust sound that you want, you can get out of an adventure bike. You don't have to sacrifice anything.
Inline 4.
There is which one was it?
There is no inline 4 real adventure bike.
I mean, just throw a set of TKC80s on a FZ1, job done.
You can't get the screaming inline 4 sound. It matters to a lot of people. You can get a screaming V4 sound from Ducati, a pretender ADV bike that they make that's a fridge on wheels, but, whatever. My next point is somewhat related to that. I said that many naked bikes nowadays are totally track ready. Street Triple, for example. As long as you have sticky rubber and no fluid leaks, you can go and rip up a track day, no problem. I've seen guys on track with adventure bikes. They are always B- pace. They are never doing anything serious. They're always there just having a laugh, having a goof, which is kind of like the adventure bike thing, It's pretty much you're always just having a laugh, having a goof with these bikes. But I think that the naked bike, it can live this dual life a little bit better than the ADV bike can live the supposed dual life of on-road, off-road. The naked bike can truly be an everyday commuter and truly go to the track and rip it up with the best of them. That's my point.
Counterpoint to that is, obviously, I will concede that at the track, an ADV bike is not at home. However,
unless it's a Pikes Peak Multistrada.
Which,
apparently,
at that point, you've completely lost the plot, Ducati. Stop
lost the plot.
Get some help.
What's your next point?
I actually believe that through all of our conversation points, I have exhausted mine.
Okay. I had one final one that I think you'll have some qualms with. My final point is that naked motorcycles are actually fast. Unlike most ADVs that are kind of fast on a good day, a middleweight naked will basically obliterate all ADV bikes except for something like a Multistrada V4, which isn't really even an ADV. A hyper naked is idiotically fast as well. If you want to go fast, naked bike.
We're talking for the daily rider, though. The daily
riders like to go fast. We have a lot of people whose daily ZX6s and shit, right?
But how often are you going to be winding it out versus just droning at 80 miles an hour? So you're going to be
Depends on the rider.
You're going to be able to spool out an ADV bike as far as you want.
Yeah.
And, be able to feel like, I'm using everything this bike has. Again, we come back to it's more fun to ride a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow.
That's right. ADV bikes are slow.
Slow bike fast, baby.
That's going to conclude the this or that segment over here on the Yamcast. Let's move on to the DM portion of the podcast.
Let's do it.
Well, look at you. You've made it to the end of another Yammy Noob video. You should consider yourself pretty lucky because I have curated this one right over here for you to continue watching. It's probably just as good as the one you just saw. Unless you hated the one you just saw. I don't know, maybe leave me a comment down below about how much you hated it as well too. Or just keep watching this one. Make sure you keep watching Yammy Noob. Don't forget to keep watching Yammy Noob. That's the most important thing. Keep watching Yammy Noob.